Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Two Dimes and a Token. I am your host today, Brucknasty. And in this amazing episode, we have to give another shout out real quick to Mr. JP Hovey. Thank you so much for making the connection. He got us hooked up with a professional MMA fighter. His name is Mr. Troy Worthen. He is basically, he's like a wrestler. He's a BJJ black belt, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in case you don't know. But also, he's an amazing dude. Came by just off a referral. He was doing a class here in Lakeland. He was doing a teaching at one of his old places that he used to work out at and where he learned. But he's a big-time wrestler, and he fought in one championship. And he's got a pretty cool story, man. Pretty awesome. He was an All-American wrestler. Graduated from UCF, if I remember correctly, and pretty much just a high-class type guy, man. And he came in here, told us his story, and he's got a pretty incredible story, man. He's got some ups and downs, and he is readily getting back into the fight game as a fighter. He's been a coach as of late, but you can tell by taking a couple looks at this guy, man, he's ready to beat ass again. So, but no, honestly, he's a super genuine dude, real down to earth, really our type of style. So, was super excited to have him on, and he was so awesome with his time too. So, before we do get into the episode, we want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Death Grip Wax. Death Grip Wax is a leading edge company when it comes to your facial hair needs, right? They have the most amazing mustache wax in the game. They are champions 1, 2, and 3 clean sweep in multiple categories when it comes to the beard and mustache championships. And when it comes to the beard and mustache world championships, we know that they will have the same result. Any type of style that you want to have for your mustache, this is the product that you're going to want to use. They take your face from a 6 to a 10, zero doubt about it. So whenever you get a chance, you can go to deathgripwax.com, or you click the link right below here in the YouTube. Also, it should be in all of our audio as well. But click the link and use the promo code, all caps, 2 dimes and a token, to get 20% off your entire purchase. That's right, 20% off your entire purchase. So if you decide to purchase 5 years worth of Death Grip Wax to make sure that your face goes from the 6 to 10 for the next 5 years, you get 20% off your entire purchase. So another big shout out before we end that to Death Grip Wax and everybody over there, and the acting CEO, the man himself, Mr. Levi. Still want to give another huge shout out to that entire community. What an amazing group of individuals. So before we, I think that's it. So please hit the like and subscribe button. That is how we keep going. I'm begging you, please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube. That's where we're really trying to push a lot of our followers. We got a big following on social media, especially through our TikTok and our Instagram. And, you know, I think between all of them, we're hitting almost 25,000. So we're hoping to kind of push that over into our YouTube channel. We really appreciate you guys. We thank you so much for every single bit of support, every single comment, every single sub, every single like, everything. We wouldn't be able to continue doing this without you guys clicking that little mouse pad or on your phone. So thank you guys so much. And without further ado, one of my favorite podcasts of the year so far, probably will be one of my top 3 by the end of it. Like I said, he's an amazing dude, awesome character, and just had an incredible story. So give it up for Troy, the fighter guy. Dude, by the way, we'll get started with that, bro. I got to tell you, this is the first time I've ever had a professional fighter in my house.
Really? I'm honored.
Yes, dude. It is pretty much an honor. So, again, thank you so much for coming on, bro. Truly appreciate it. And JP, by the way, I don't know if he told you. So, I had been following Bustin' with the Boys for a while, and I reached out and I did podcasts with Jack and Garrett and Mitch. JP was the last one that I was able to hook up with. And dude, what a dude, bro.
Now, JP is the man.
Bro, he is the man. I was so hyped when he came to the house we rented, because we flew to Nashville to do the podcast with him.
Okay.
And I was like, bro, whatever you want, like, just let me know, blah blah blah, because we have drink of the pod and all that stuff. And he was like, oh, it's all good. And then right afterwards, he's like, hey, come with me and we'll do a tour of the bus and all that.
Really?
Stuff. Yeah. And I was like, are we allowed to do that? And he was like, bro, got the keys. I was like, yes, you're the man. So, but dude, awesome guy, awesome dude. So thank you. Shout out to JP for connecting us.
Sure.
Here.
Shout out to JP for everything.
There you go, bro. For
person.
Life itself. So what do we got here, bro? What is our drink of the pod today?
No, I'm kind of boring. Usually it's just water for me, but I felt like that would be a ridiculous request to just ask water. So I said any kind of sport drink. So I guess Gatorade is sponsoring this podcast.
Yeah, well, yes. Gatorade Zero is going to sponsor this podcast.
So Gatorade, make sure you send him a check.
Hell yeah.
Make it out to Brooke. And then if you want, if this is a great podcast, you can send me a percentage and we'll be good.
Yeah, dude. You can give him 100%. It's all good, bro.
I would love the Gatorade money.
Yeah, dude. Hit me with it, bro. Where did you start out? I know we just chatted about it, but where'd you start out? Where were you born? Where'd you grow up, dude?
So I actually grew up here in Lakeland. I was born in Loxahatchee, Florida, down south on a horse farm.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a construction worker, so he got a job up here. We moved to Lakeland. And funny enough, even though I grew up in Lakeland, I did all my schooling in Mulberry.
Yeah.
Just the way that zoning works out. So I did all like high school and stuff in Mulberry, which is a tiny school compared to Lakeland.
Uh-huh.
I graduated the graduating class of like 200 people. It's not it's not big at all.
Damn.
Very small town feel there. But honestly, it's probably the only reason I graduated high school because I was kind of a fuck up in high school. I didn't really show up very much.
Bro, we know our own.
Yeah.
Way to go, bro.
I like to skip school. So like having a good relationship, knowing my teachers throughout my life is pretty much what saved me because they knew I knew I was a smart kid. I can get away with like passing tests and stuff. I just wasn't willing to do the homework and stuff. So they let me slide there. But I mean, really, I had no idea of what I was going to do after school. I did not want to go to college. I knew that because I just knew I didn't want to do more schoolwork. And I was pretty much willing to do anything not to go to college.
I dig that.
So yeah, I was gonna do the fire academy right out of high school. And at the same time, one of my friends is actually one of my brothers. I have an older brother who wrestled before I did, and I wrestled all through high school and stuff. I was a really good athlete, but as you can see by my giant stature, I wasn't gonna be like a football player or anything. And wrestling in Florida doesn't really have a lot of long lasting effects on your lifestyle, so you're not really gonna get into a big D1 college or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I was really just focused on going to the fire school route, and because I didn't have to go to college for that. You have a specific certification route, and I was like, all right, I'm cool with that. Seems lit. Firefighters get chicks, and you work 24 hours on, 48 off. I was like, I don't have to work that hard. This sounds great,
dude. So I had a SWAT officer on who was actually a quarterback for me in college.
Yeah.
And he made the comment. He's like, dude, firefighters, those fucking losers. He's like, they work 24 hours on, and he's like, I say that out of pure jealousy because he has like 36, 48-hour shifts. Yeah. Dude, so I dig the schedule as well. Yeah. So did you end up getting into it?
Well, I was all the way done with EMT school. And in the middle, somewhere in there, I had a friend that was a professional fighter at the time. And he had called me because he was coming back into town. He had stuff with his family going on. Yeah. And he was training with a family member, or he was still training for a fight while trying to help the family member. Yeah. So he was basically like, hey, while I'm in town, can you train with me? I know you're a really good wrestler from high school. I was like, yeah, man, I'll help you out. And we were training, and he was like, dude, you're giving me, like, problems on the ground. You don't know what you're doing. He was like, you might want to look into fighting if you still want to compete. And I was like, I had, like, a void because pretty much the only reason I went to high school is so I could wrestle. Yeah. I just wanted to compete. And I was like, that sounds like a cool idea, too. And, like, I watched the UFC. I always thought that was awesome and stuff. So I was like, I think maybe I could do the fighting on the side while I'm a firefighter. If I'm working a 24-hour shift, the 48 hours I'm off, I can go train and stuff. It makes sense. So I started training at the gym, and before I knew it, I was more interested in the fighting side than the firefighting side. Yeah. So actually, I started taking amateur fights, and then I think my second or third amateur fight I had scheduled. It was going to be the Saturday before I left to go check into the dorms for fire school in Ocala.
Oh shit.
So it was 2 days before the actual fight. We were doing our last training session. I didn't even have a mouthpiece in, nothing. We were just playing around after practice, as all my injuries have always happened.
Oh man.
And he threw a body shot, and I didn't have a mouthpiece in. We were in really small gloves, just playing around, and I ducked into it, and it broke my jaw. So it cracks my jaw directly in half. I ended up having to go to the hospital. That was a whole ordeal. The hospital referred me to somebody else, and he couldn't do the surgery that day, so I had to go home with my jaw hanging open and sleep, and then wake up and go get the surgery the next day. But lo and behold, when they wired my jaw shut, I called the fire academy and I let them know what happened. And obviously I couldn't do the fight anymore on that Saturday. The fire academy is like, hey man, you can't wear a respirator, so you're not going to be able to do this semester of fire school. And I'm like, oh
dude,
shit. I'm like, this is a little more serious than what I was expecting, you know, like, don't really know what to do now. I'm like, all right, so can I just check into the next semester for the next like year of fire academy or whatever? And they're like, yeah, you can, but actually we looked at your dates of your SAT scores, and they're going to be invalidated by the time you do that. So you're going to have to take your SATs again.
Bro, this jaw is fucking up your entire life now.
It changed everything. I'm like,
Holy
wait,
shit.
What the fuck? So I'm like, now like everything has changed. I'm like, so you're telling me I have to retake my SATs, and if I fail them, I can't get back into fire school? And I had at this point been out of high school for like a year and a half, 2 years. I was like, I was not confident I was going to repass the SATs. Yeah. So I'm like, fuck, that's not really an option.
It's all good.
So I was like, maybe fire school is not even an option anymore.
Damn.
And then I found out that colleges, you could have it up for like, it was like 4 or 5 years, and the SATs were still valid. And I was like, I guess I'll just go back to college and keep fighting then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just like, obviously that was a way long story just to say the fire school shit didn't work out. And once my jaw healed up, I went ahead and applied for Polk State College right down the street.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll get an associate's degree while I try and chase this fighting thing, because I was living with my dad at the time. I didn't really have any expenses.
Yeah.
So I was just like, fuck it.
What year was that? Like,
see, I graduated in 2011. This had to be like 2013.
I feel that. Dude, I feel so old now. I graduated college from my MBA in 2013. Which, by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, the fortunate thing is just like I was blessed to be very, very large, right? So when you go to a small school and you play sports, all you got to do is sit in the front. Yes,
just
ma'am.
Show up.
Yes, sir. If you play ball and you're like not an asshole, they're like, C's all day, baby.
Yeah.
So I got very fortunate there. That's the only reason I have 2 degrees, which I don't use, by the way. So college is great.
Speaking of feeling old, when I decided to actually full-time go back, like, I don't really consider Polk State College. I'm not trying to shit on you, but it's not a real college. So like when I ended up down the road going to UCF,
yeah,
when I like applied and got in and everything, I think I was 23 or 24 at the time.
Yeah.
So like I'm like an old kid on campus. I'm like, oh fuck, these kids are like 18 years old. They're worried about getting fake IDs so they can drink.
I'm like, trying to find a way to buy beer.
So yeah, and then I joined the wrestling team there, and I'm wrestling kids that are like just out of high school, and I'm like, all right, I feel like I'm abusing children at this point. What the fuck is going on? I'm a loser.
You're just out here beating ass and feeling bad about it. That's awesome, dude. So, did you graduate from UCF?
Yeah, I ended up getting my bachelor's at UCF in sport and exercise science.
Awesome, dude. Congrats.
Yeah, that was kind of like, while I was pursuing fighting, I felt like I needed some kind of backup plan, because, you know, like, as an athlete, you kind of know that there's a chance that this shit doesn't work out and you're never going to make any money off of it, especially in fighting, because unlike other sports where it's like, all right, you go to college, then you go to the draft, and there's not like a set way to get to a place where you make money. So I was like, I need a backup plan. I feel like I need to finish college and like do something with the degree. And I was always interested in sports and like human performance and like fitness and stuff like that. I was like, it makes sense.
Yeah, dude. And there's a whole division of our society that really, they need to look into that, because it's like physical action work. That's what it is. Because like one thing I'll tell you is like when I got done, because I've worked like sales jobs, and I've done, I mean, luckily I've been good at them, you know, but for like all reality purposes, like I've never enjoyed what I've done, like for a job. Like when I had kids, like the favorite part that I have in my life right now is when I hang out with my kids. I'll play video games with them, or we'll shoot basketball, or we'll throw the football, or we're out doing something, you know. But like that's one thing I got to say I admire a lot is like I never wanted to go down that road where you're going to school and trying to sit in a cubicle or all this other shit. But I didn't really have like the balls to like go and just figure shit out like with what I really wanted to do. And it was like, damn, I guess, you know what I'm saying? So
No, absolutely.
A lot of kudos on that, man. But
no, I appreciate it. I agree. And like, I don't know if you've noticed like a theme here, but pretty much everything I was trying to do was work as little as possible so I could do what I actually fucking wanted to do on the side.
See,
I was trying to cheat it.
I admire that because that's a whole mentality that is that's really looked over. Is like, especially as today's generation grows up, bro. It's like figuring out things that you want to do, things that help you enjoy your life, rather than just chase money. And I went the chase money route. Like, and you know, I've done well for myself, but at the same time, like, I've probably spent 4.5 years of my life doing something I absolutely hate. And I've only been in the working field for 11 years. So it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like 40%. It's like,
yeah,
fuck.
dude, it's like, damn, bro. Like when you think about it. So going forward now in your story, dude, when was the first time, like your first amateur fight since the broken jaw thing didn't pan out and then that fight got canceled?
Well, I actually fought, I think, once or twice before that happened.
Did you really?
Yeah, before that happened, I took my first amateur fight like 20 days after starting training. Like, it was crazy.
I'm assuming you won.
Yeah, I won.
That's
because
dope.
I had a huge wrestling background. So
Yeah.
like, to me, wrestling is basically a fight without punches. So
Yeah.
like, I had the advantage, and back then MMA was not as big as it is now. So like,
Yeah, that's true.
people were coming from like karate backgrounds thinking they knew how to fight. So they would take a fight, and then like I would literally just touch hands, take you down, beat the fuck out of you, next fight. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it was back then. Basically, wrestling made you the dominant person.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, second or third fight was when the broken jaw thing happened. These are all amateur, so this is all unpaid. I'm not making any money.
Yeah.
This is all like a fucking pipe dream for me to ever make money. So when I actually got into UCF and moved to Orlando,
Yeah.
I moved in with the guy that had got me into training, the guy that I helped train for the professional fight.
Okay.
And he was a promoter now and promoted the organization I was fighting for.
That's dope.
So while I was at UCF, I joined the wrestling team just to felt like I had unfinished business from wrestling in high school. I had only taken 5th and 3rd in state, so I never won it. So that fucking irked me forever.
Yeah.
And I always lost to like the best guy by like a point. And I was like, motherfucker, dude, I want to win a national title.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, same shit happened in college.
Oh,
Same shit happened in college.
dude.
But
fuck.
fuck it. I didn't even care. I was only doing it to get better at fighting, so it didn't really matter as much to me.
Yeah.
But while in college, I took my first professional fight. I was actually in the middle of wrestling season. I was in shape, and a promotion had called me, and they're like, hey, man, we got a kid that needs to fight on short notice. He needs to fight in 2 weeks. We saw that you were his last amateur fight. So it was my last amateur fight. I defended one of my belts, and I knocked a guy out, and I broke my hand on him. So I had taken a long time off. But they're like, hey, would you fight him as a pro? He said he'd be willing to fight you. And for me, I thought this kid was crazy because I'm like, I just knocked you out as an amateur. Now with pro rules, I'm going to hurt you. And this kid wants to fight me. And I felt like I was so much better at that point. So I was like, well, fuck it. I'll fight him on 2 weeks' notice. And in my head, like, a professional fight, I've made it, right? Like, what's this offer about to be? And he's like, all right, we can pay you $350 and $350. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
What?
Like, $350 and $350. And he's like, yeah, you get $350 if you show up. And you get you get an extra $350 if you win. And I was like, fuck, bro, wait, what? I'm about to fight in front of a crowd.
I thought my life was changing.
Yeah, I thought I was ready to like quit my job and everything.
Yeah.
And if I won, I made $700. And I was like,
my God.
fuck, dude. Like, maybe this fighting thing's not going to pay the bills.
Bro,
but
that's tough, bro.
lo and behold, I won it. And I know I'm long-winded. I'm probably jumping around and shit.
Oh, you're good,
and
bro.
Making this a terrible like way to follow this podcast. But essentially, I won my first pro fight. I kept wrestling at the same time in college while I was still fighting actively. And I took local fights. It was really hard for me to get fights. Because I had like a decent name in Florida. They kind of knew that I was a really good wrestler, so none of the strikers wanted to fight me. I did a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so a lot of the grapplers kind of knew of me around the scene, and no one wanted to take hard fights back then. You wanted to have that undefeated record so you can get to the UFC really quickly.
Yeah.
Like, that was the pathway. So, like, all the good guys didn't want to fight each other. They're all dodging each other, so it was really hard to find a fight. I fought actually twice out of my weight class just to get a fight.
Did you, like, move up?
Yeah, I moved up a weight class just to get a fight. Because there was times where it was like, if you look at my Tapology record back when earlier in my career, I had like 13 canceled fights in a row at one point.
That's crazy.
Where like it would be 11 months would go by and I could not get a fight. And like my roommate was a promoter and he's like, bro, I don't know how to help you. Like everybody's pulling out. Like my first few fights, like events pulled out. Everything happened shitty.
I mean, I understand the mentality behind it. Like I get it, but there's kind of, I don't know, dude. That just sounds like a really bitch way to go about your business. Like if you book the fight, do the fight.
Yeah.
Even if like, okay, I get like, all right, we need to find a way to get some momentum underneath your belt. Find a way to get a few wins. Do this, but as an ultimate competitor, like, wouldn't you want to take on somebody that is going to be the biggest challenge, idealistically, or
for sure. And like I don't want to shit on anybody because I know the business side. It's the smart move to make. It's like the boxers, right? They fight a bunch of terrible people until they get to like 30-0, and now they're gonna be willing to fight better people for millions of dollars. Which I get it, but like I don't know. At the same time, coming from a wrestling background, you just go to a tournament and you're wrestling the best kids all day until you get to the top, and it's like all in one day. I was just used to it. I just wanted to compete. I didn't really like. I didn't get in the sport to make money at that point. I just wanted to fucking compete and show that I was like the best at something. And I think like never winning that championship in wrestling in high school kind of like drove me.
It's like
was a driving force.
Chip on your shoulder, right?
I was like, fuck, I need to be the best at something. I was always second or third or fourth, and like it bothered me. But
damn, dude. So now you're 1-0 as a pro fighter. You just won $700.
Oh, $700, dude.
What's the first thing that you're doing right after?
I think I put new tires on my car at the time.
Dope.
I think I was rolling in it. I put some new tires on my car. And I was, I don't know if I should say this, but whatever. Fuck it. The job's already gone. I was working at a mental health facility that like. We might have doctored my resume up a little bit to make it look like I was qualified for that job.
Yeah.
But I mean, I felt like when I was working there, I was like one of the most qualified people.
Yeah.
So,
it's usually the case.
Yeah. So I wasn't making crazy money, and I was like working overnights and then training all day when I wasn't studying for college and shit. It was a mess. That was like a really hard time in my life, just because like I felt like I had no time. Like if I wasn't in the gym, I was at work or at home doing college assignments, trying to get that shit done.
Yeah.
And like at the same time, I had this pipe dream of like I'm gonna be in the UFC and make millions of dollars being a world champion. And like as time is going by, college to get a bachelor's, it took me like 2 years. So like this is all happening over like a 2-year span, and I feel like I'm just getting older because I entered college older.
Yeah.
But a few fights go by, I get to the point where I'm 4-0, and I'm at the end of my college wrestling career, and we're at nationals. And it's my last chance to like win a national title and everything. And I'm in like a standard position. We call it, which this might sound weird to normal people, we call it head in the hole. Yeah. Basically you just put your head in the dude's armpit and go to take his back. I've done it 1,000 times. It's one of my best moves. And I just feel my neck shift and it's like bop, bop, bop. And then I'm like, oh fuck. So they stop the match. I like scream out because like I know something's wrong. There's a searing pain going down my shoulder and shit. And at the time, we thought my shoulder popped out.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, nothing's moving right. Like my whole side of my body is numb, like up here, and we all think it's my shoulder. So this is what they call like the blood round, which is like the round. If you win, you're an All-American, which means you place in the top 8 in the country. If you lose, you don't place. You're not an All-American. You just fucking wasted your year. So I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this again. I'm going to at least place in college. Like, I'm not going to do this shit where I don't place. So, like, I ended up wrestling, finishing the match, winning, and placing, and then injury forfeiting out the rest because I knew I could not wrestle. Like, my shit was fucked up. We all thought it was a shoulder injury.
But you got the title.
Yeah. So, I got the All-American status. So, I got that fucking W. Then go to find out when I get an MRI, it wasn't my shoulder, it was my neck. And I had 2 herniations and a bulge on the spinal cord.
Holy shit.
So at that point, they're like, yo.
And you wrestled with that?
Yeah, wrestled with that. Retarded. Like, thought it was my shoulder. Probably could have paralyzed myself. Not smart at all. So then, like, the doctor's like, hey, man, you might want to rethink this fighting thing because, like, your neck's pretty fucked up. And, like, you have all these moves, like guillotines and stuff where they're cranking on your neck. We don't know what kind of damage you could do. You don't want to end up paralyzed chasing this thing. So, like, now I'm taking a step back, like, all right, maybe this college degree thing's going to work out because I don't know if fighting, like, it really got to me. I don't want to be a fucking vegetable. Like, as much as I want to compete, I don't want to lose my ability to, like, live a normal life. So
I got a question for you on that.
Yeah.
Because that's a unique perspective, right? Where do you think it's kind of shifted from? Because, you say that to someone that was like 70s and 80s that was 20 or 30 years old playing professional sports or doing that. It didn't matter. They were like, no, it doesn't matter if I die. It's all about the sport. It's all about playing the game. You know what I'm saying? Like Ronnie Lott cut his finger off to play a football game. Like, what are you doing, bro? When do you think that transition started to happen? Like, would that ever come across to you? Like, would you ever reconsider that decision now? Like, would you take the risk, Like, well, what are your thoughts on it? Because the reason I wanted to ask you that too, I'm so glad you got onto that, is because you're in one of the most dangerous sports in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's more, because I played football for 20 years, and we talk about having CTE. And I definitely have it because I forget everything. There's no way that I don't, right? But you spend day in and day out practicing people hitting you in the head. Like, what are your thoughts on the whole idea of that?
Well, I mean, that side is like, there's really no good answer because I ended up doing it and still do it and still take the risk because my neck is never going to be the same.
Yeah.
I think it's like cost benefit analysis, like how much light does the sport bring to your life, and is it worth living without it? Right? Like, that's really, like, I think a lot of these guys, like, they don't feel any happiness or find any joy in life or love outside of the things they do. And if they can't do that anymore, what the fuck is the point of life anyways? You're talking about, like, feeling empty at work and stuff like that. Like, those guys feel so empty in the rest of their life that they're willing to do anything just to feel that, like, that high, that little bit of adrenaline, just to feel good for a little bit, do that sport. So, I mean, that's definitely the thing that, I mean, I know a lot of fighters get, like, the stigma that they're fucking dumb brutes, but there's a lot of really intelligent dudes in the sport, and they all know the risk. We all know what the risk we're taking. Like, I studied human performance. I know about how the brain works. I know what I'm doing to my body. I realize it's not healthy. I realize it's not good for me. Football players, the same. But it's like, I don't really want to wake up and do a normal life without that. Like, that's really the, like, cost benefit analysis for me.
Yeah.
So it's like,
no, I can feel that. And I love that you added that in. A lot of people have those assumptions like athletics and dudes are just like dumbasses. Whereas I would probably say some of the most intelligent people I've ever met were involved in mixed martial arts or were football players.
You don't think these quarterbacks that are breaking down all these schemes and shit in the heat of the moment, those guys are basically engineers on the fucking field. Like,
exactly.
Like, these are very smart people.
So moving back, obviously, like you kind of alluded to, you decided to kind of push forward. And when did you first get into the organization you're in now?
So that's the thing, is I actually kind of heeded to the doctor, and, like, I was starting to rethink things because I really did not want to be paralyzed. And I took 6 months where I thought, like, you know what? I think maybe I'll just be like a coach on that side of it. And I started thinking about open up a strength and conditioning gym. So I was going to use my degree. I had put some money away. I had since moved on from the mental health hospital job, and I was serving, and I was making some money. I might have been doing some extracurriculars, like selling a little weed on the side, put some money in the bank.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'll just open a strength and conditioning gym, and I'll help fighters from that side. Because I knew, like, especially back then, the strength and conditioning coaches had no idea how to help fighters. They were just putting them through fucking HIIT workouts. And I'm like, yo, we do that every day in training. That's not what they need. They need, like, injury prevention and strengthening, like actual strength workouts, not to go do CrossFit and then go do CrossFit again when we spar and then we train. Like, everybody was just getting overtrained. So I was just like, all right, I'll do it from that side. And I actually, like, started hoarding equipment. I started going on Marketplace and buying shit every time I saw it. I had probably $15,000 worth of equipment bought. I was ready to open a spot, and then just lo and behold, like, I really missed the sport. I was still training, just not as intense as a fighter. And one day, I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, but I saw an ad where a team in Singapore called Evolve Fight Team was doing an open tryout. And it was basically, if you bought your ticket, you applied online, and they accepted you. You buy your ticket to Singapore, and there was an open tryout. If you won it, you were guaranteed a $45,000 a year salary, and you were a part of the team living in Singapore, and you were going to fight in one championship, which was the organization I fought for. That was like one of the top organizations in the world. At that time, I thought like one championship, I adored it. Like I had seen them online, the leader Chatri, the way he spoke, like it was the home of real martial arts. I wasn't really a fan of the way the UFC was going with like, it felt like WWE. Everybody was like promoting it, talking shit. It was like McGregor era and all that shit. And I was like, I really got into martial arts because I like to compete. I didn't want to be a part of the sideshow shit. So I loved the idea of fighting one championship. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I was like, fuck the neck thing. I don't want to like live the rest of my life regretting not just taking a chance. So I was like, I'm going to get back in fight shape. I'm going to apply to this thing. And if they accept me, I'll buy the plane ticket. I'll go over there and see like where I'm at in the world. I started getting in shape. I started training. And funny enough, like it got to be where it was like 2 weeks before when the tryouts were supposed to be. And I still never got an email back. So I was like, it's just not meant to be. We were at Universal Studios hanging out, and I don't know why, but I decided to check my email real quick on my phone. And in the top email was Evolve Fight Team, and it says, "Congratulations, you've been accepted." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "All right, the tryout's in 2 weeks." So I like I look at my boy. I'm like, I got to book a fucking plane ticket. So I buy the plane ticket, and I had been preparing, so I was in shape and shit. Fly to Singapore. Ended up winning the tryouts. I was the first pick. So, first pick, now my whole life just changed. I thought I was about to open a strength and conditioning gym in fucking Orlando, Florida.
Now you're like, dude, I'm fighting for a living.
Well, now I just got signed. I have a salary. I'm moving to Singapore.
Holy shit.
My whole fucking life just changed like that. Like, literally a weekend. I flew over there. It was like a 3-day long or 4-day long tryout. They basically tried to kill us. Like, the fucking workouts were miserable. I had heat exhaustion the first day.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, this wasn't a fucking easy thing. Like I earned that shit.
It was like Hell Week in the Steels or something.
They're trying to break you to see like who deserved this money, basically.
Damn.
And
what was the salary, if you don't mind me asking?
$45,000 a year.
Dope.
$45,000 a year.
A lot better than $700
just to train, right? Instead of $700 a fight and not getting paid to train.
And like, you get fight bonuses.
And when I fight, I get paid too. So like that was the dream. Like I was like, literally. The happiest point ever in my life.
You just hit it.
Is when I signed that shit. I was like, holy fuck. All I have to do is just fucking train now. Like, it was the happiest thing in my life. And when I moved to Singapore, I loved it out there. I loved the culture. I'm a huge foodie, dude. I fucking love food. And the food in Singapore, you can get anything you want. It's all good. Like, dude.
In case you couldn't tell, I love food too.
Bro.
Wide load over here.
If I didn't train 4 to 8 hours a day, I would be 600 pounds.
Yo.
I'd probably eat like 6,000 calories a day.
Could you imagine that? We're 5'8", 5'9"? Is that what you are?
Yeah. We'll go with that, dude.
5'8", 5'9", 600 pounds, bro. That'd be a fucking specimen. I love that. Dude, that's amazing. That honestly, like, I'm fucking juiced up sitting here listening to your story, bro. I'm getting kind of hype. Right?
Trust me, like, going down memory lane, I'm like, fuck, dude.
I know, right? Like, so, all right. So now you get in. Now you've already got a professional fight under your belt.
Oh yeah, I was 4-0 when I got signed.
You're 4-0 as a professional when you get in there, right? So, from that point, after you get signed, I mean, how did the next few fights go for you?
So I moved to Singapore. I started getting everything in order.
Yep.
And actually, I wanted to fight immediately. I was a fucking young kid. I was eager. I wanted to prove myself, like prove to the company that I was fucking worth the money they were spending and shit. And just like, I just wanted to fight so bad. And like, I was super eager in the sport. So they actually made me wait longer than I wanted to. Like, I wanted to fight the first month I was there.
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because I don't know if you know, there's a 12-hour time difference between Florida and Singapore, and jet lag is a bitch, dude. Like, I did not respect it. Probably the first month I trained there, something was off. Like, my cardio was crap, dude.
Really?
I would start training, my heart rate would spike, I couldn't recover. It was getting, like, so bad to get through training sessions. I started to, like, question whether or not I should be there. Because I was like, dude, these training sessions are crushing me. And like,
do you think it had anything to do with the environment in the new country and all that stuff, or was it?
Luckily, like the actual climate and stuff of Singapore is pretty similar to Florida, where it's just like hot and humid year round.
Oh, okay.
So that didn't really like bother me too much, but I know like the jet lag really fucked me. I was having a hard time sleeping and stuff. And when we first moved there, right, I don't have bank accounts with Singaporean money and shit like that. And like the salary hasn't quite started yet. So at this point, I don't really have that much money.
Yeah.
And I don't have an apartment or anything yet. I don't know how to sign up for these things. I don't know how to get a phone there. So like the first month there was kind of a train wreck.
Yeah.
I get a fucking hotel and I'm like, I don't know how to use the train system or anything there. So I'm walking 1.5 miles to the gym in the morning and like walking back after. And like it was a shit show at first until we got bank accounts set up, until I got my first payment so I could afford to go get an apartment there and shit. Because like Singapore's not a cheap place. It's a very like expensive country, especially for a foreigner. So like I had to wait till I got my first payment so I can go get an apartment.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to live in a different world was completely different. So like the first month was kind of a shit show. So I'm glad that they didn't give me a fight immediately.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, I think they made me wait 5 or 6 months, and I was so eager to fight. And like obviously you're getting used to new coaches, new team environment, new training partners. It was a good thing they made me wait. But man, I know it was a company dinner when I got told like I was gonna have my first fight. They gave me the date and they gave me the opponent. And I've never been more hype in my life just to see a fucking name, like text on a piece of paper.
Right.
It was like, this is the guy you're fighting and this is the date. And it was like in Malaysia, which I thought was dope. I was like, I'm gonna go to another new country. I'm gonna fight and fucking like I was so hyped, man. It was a kid. I didn't even care who it was, but he was like 8-0, mostly knockouts, Chinese boxer. And I was like, oh, this is dope. Because, like, typically, undefeated kid, good prospect, American, like, I figured they were probably going to, like, toss me an easy fight or something like that to try and build me. And I wasn't too keen on taking easy fights in my whole career. I always wanted to fight the toughest guys. And I wasn't keen on that. So when I saw that name and I saw his record and everything, it made me more hype. I was like, because it made me scared. You know, I don't want to go get knocked out in my first fight in a big organization in front of the world. Like, this is going to be my first time fighting on TV and shit. So, like, that fear drove me a little bit. And I trained hard as fuck, bro. And, like, first fight went perfect.
Yeah.
I go out there and take the kid down and basically elbow in his face for 5 minutes straight. And, like, credit to him. He's tough as fuck. But, like, he got back up. Second round starts. I take him down immediately, start doing the same thing. And I probably land, like, no joke, probably 100 unanswered strikes on the ground.
Holy shit, dude.
And this kid's tough as fuck, but finally the ref like pulled me off, saved him.
I was gonna say there's got to be a certain point. If I get to 0 and 50, like I'm gonna be like, hey, bro, you should probably step in.
The kid was a savage. I'll give him that. He wasn't 8-0 for no reason, but I whooped his ass for 2 rounds.
I love that shit. He's like, listen, the guy was tough as hell. I beat his ass.
Yeah. So like, it was the best possible debut into like a huge organization possible because I felt like a fucking world beater after.
Hell
that.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm talking about.
That was awesome. Yeah, and to just kind of like fast forward a little bit.
Yeah. I
ended up going 3-0 my first 3 fights in this big organization.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like the man, right?
Yeah.
Well, the third fight was 2020, I think it was. It was right when COVID was happening.
Oh shit!
And like, I'm a young kid. I've never seen anything, no like pandemic in my fucking time or anything like that.
None of us have.
I didn't even respect it, honestly, when I started seeing shit that was happening on the news and stuff. So I was booked for my third fight, and the COVID shit started going around. They're talking about shutting the country down, and I'm just like blowing it off. I'm like, bro, they're not gonna shut a whole fucking country down.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm in Asia, which is right next to like I'm in Singapore, right next to China. Like, I didn't have a care in the world. I'm just like, bro, they're not shutting the fucking country down. This shit is like all propaganda, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna focus on my fight. And it gets to like 2 weeks or a week before the fight, and the owner of the company messages everybody, lets them know, like, hey, the whole event might get canceled. They might close all the borders. You guys might not fight. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like,
this is real.
I'm like, holy shit. Like, what's going to happen with this? Like, is this organization going to go under? Because, like, a professional sporting organization only makes money when they put on events. If they can't put on events, am I going to have a job anymore? Like, what's going on?
Dude, you want to hear a funny stat? Like, just the other night, dude, I sat with a Delta airline pilot.
Okay.
And he was telling us about that, and he was going through his story with COVID airlines. Airlines were hemorrhaging. $400 million a day.
Oh, my God.
I was like, what?
Yo, give me one day. I'm never working again.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Because you can imagine, like, all these companies and organizations, especially people that put on events like that, like, the money lost during that time frame. Insane, bro. But continue.
No, I was terrified. Yeah, I was terrified because, like, at that point, it was like, this is my dream. Like, everything is perfect. I'm being paid to train. I love where I'm living.
Yeah.
I love my team, my training partners, like, everything. I'm very successful. I was undefeated at the time. So, like, everything's going perfect for me. And I'm like, holy fuck, is this, like, whole thing going to come crashing down?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, luckily, the CEO made the event happen, but it was actually the first event that happened with no fans. So they ended up closing the event, which was a super weird experience because, like,
dude, watching that on TV was a weird experience, like with the UFC and some of those guys. You can hear them talking.
Bro, I was not ready.
It was weird.
You were only allowed to have, I think the rule at the time was like 15 or 20 people inside of a building at one time. So, like, literally what they were doing is we were sitting in a hotel. They would shuttle me and my two coaches to the event. You would warm up, go fight, and then they kick you out so the next fight can come into the venue. Like, it was crazy. So I'm sitting in a hotel room, and they're like, all right, it's your turn to go. We go, we warm up, go fight, and they're like, all right, get the fuck out of here. Like, so the next fight can go.
How do you handle that mentally? Because I know one thing, I'm not this type of person, but from what I understand about anybody that is in combat sports, a lot of them stick to a ritual, and they have like a mental thing they go through for like quite a few day process before the fight.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of focus that gets into it.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? And now all of a sudden they're like, whatever you do, forget it. You're gonna do how we say it. Like, how did you handle that?
Honestly, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, most fighters are super creatures of habit. Like, everything is, they want it to be regimented exactly the same. Honestly, everything was happening, like, so unexpectedly and so fast. I don't really remember. Like, I didn't have time to process what was going on. I just knew I had to go get in a fist fight and get paid.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm like, whatever is about to happen, I got to go win.
Doesn't matter. I got to beat his ass.
It was fucking, but I will say it was so weird because, like, they wouldn't still put on the same show. So, they're like, when I walk out, they're like, we're going to play your music. Act like you're still playing to the crowd and shit like that. Act like people are cheering for you. Put your hands up and shit. And I'm like, how do I do this? Because I walk out, it's an empty fucking stadium, and there's a guy waiting in the cage for me. Like, this fucking thing feels weird.
That does feel weird, bro.
So, like, they play my music, and I walk out there, and they're expecting me to, like, get pumped and shit like that, but there's nobody there.
So you just walk.
So,
like...
but I'm doing what I'm told for the company, so I'm gonna pretend. So I'm like screaming, I'm looking and throwing my hands up. I'm like, am I acting well right now? Like, thinking not about the fight at all. I'm thinking about acting my like walkout entrance to make it look good for TV. It was wild. And then like
wild.
Usually when you get into a cage, there's people screaming. There's so many things going on. You can't really hear or process anything. I get into a like just dead silent, pitch black arena cage, and I'm staring across. I can hear my opponent breathing. He's staring at me. I'm like, this is fucking awkward. We're just looking at each other while the announcer is still doing his whole thing, like hyping up the thing, even though there's no fucking crowd there.
That's weird.
I'm just looking at him like, all right, we're about to do this. I will say, like, competing like that, if you're a person that deals with like a lot of fight anxiety and like has trouble in the arenas, it's probably good for them.
Yeah.
For me, I thrive with like pressure. And like I felt kind of, I mean, it's still a fist fight, so you're hype, but like it's not the same, man. It's hard to get in that same like mode. I didn't feel like I was ready to kill. Like, I felt like I was there to do a job, which it's not my favorite. Like, I like to be hyped.
From a fan perspective, dude, it was very different from purchasing an event. Yeah. Because it was like you kind of, one of the things I will tell you 100% as a wholehearted fan, because I've been watching mixed martial arts since like 2019, and I have been such a huge fan. And I used to actually be a huge fan of like Conor McGregor and all that, but he looks like such an asshole lately. The last like 4 years of his life, it's like, bro, just stop. But I digress. But like, you don't have the fans there cheering, like even watching through the television.
Yeah.
So even that, you like you pay $80 and you just like that's it. That's it. And it's just like, it's kind of funky even as a fan.
There's a different intensity, right?
Yeah. It's like it changed so much when we watched those, because there was probably God, I can't remember how many there were, but I used to order them religiously because, again, like kind of very similar to you, I love mixed martial arts. You know, I could never do it, but I love ordering every single one, no matter what. I'll figure it out. Like I just love watching it, and I love seeing guys' stories and their journeys, how they got to where they are, and the work that they put in for it. There's just something about it that makes it really just fucking like honorable and like really badass, you know. And during that time frame, like I think I stopped ordering all of them.
Really?
Yeah, it's just weird.
Even though there's nothing else to watch at the time?
Yeah, really.
Really?
For real, dude. Like honestly, you just start finding things in the house because it just didn't it had a weirder vibe. Like I think the last one I ordered that they had no fans at was they may have had fans at that one. Do you remember Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic?
Okay. Which one? The first or second?
The second one where
the rematch where Ngannou won the belt.
Yes, where
Okay.
Ngannou won the belt. And I think that was one of the last ones where they like didn't have any fans or they had a small amount.
Okay.
But that was like the last one I ordered. And there was like 4 or 5 more after that. And I was just I don't know, it just gave it a different vibe. Like I love seeing the difference between, you know, having tons and tons of fans. That was way more exhilarating.
Yeah.
Even
for
as
sure.
a fan to
You
watch.
can feel the energy even
Yes.
through the TV, which is like ridiculous, but
Yeah.
even when they
exactly.
show like a camera pan shot with like when Connor walks to the ring and like puts his hands up like that and you see all the fans going crazy versus
Yeah.
just like dead black studio. You're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Right. So now that happens, and how long was it after the COVID thing that you actually had a fight after that?
So yeah, so I win that fight and the country hasn't locked down yet. They're just putting a lot of parameters.
Yeah.
And I like win that fight. I'm excited, so I'm like, I'm going on vacation to Thailand.
Yeah.
So I go spend a week in Phuket, and they're like, I get a call, and they're like, hey, you need to get back to Singapore right now. And I'm like, I still have like an extra day. I pretty sure my flight is leaving tomorrow, and they're like, no, you need to come now because they're closing the borders, and you can get locked out of Singapore. You're gonna be stuck in Thailand. I'm like, wait, what?
This
like,
is actually happening.
this is actually happening. They're
Wow.
actually closing the borders. So like,
Yeah.
the day we flew in, the day after they closed the borders, there's no more.
Holy shit.
And I was like, holy shit, this is real. But I don't know if you guys know about Singapore. that's an authoritarian government.
Yeah.
So like when they say lockdown, it's not like Florida where like people are still doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
When they say lockdown, like there's people monitoring the streets. They have tickets and shit like that. Like they'll write you a ticket if you're outside.
Really?
So like I had, I think, a 600 square foot apartment at the time. When they locked down, that's where I was for the next 6 months. You were only allowed to leave your home for groceries and exercise. So I was basically exercising like 8 hours a day just to be outside.
Yeah, dude.
Like I would go on
Oh
runs
my
and shit.
God.
And like, yeah, I mean, for might have been longer than 6 months, but we were just fucking locked down. And like,
yeah.
I mean, as a professional athlete, I'm trying to figure out how can I stay fit while I'm in this 600 square foot apartment
Yeah.
and be ready for whenever this shit ends. I got to fight, right?
Dude, and people don't understand the difference between being in shape and being a professional athlete.
No, yeah, it's not even comparable.
It's not even comparable, dude. Because I've gone into a point where like I played college football, bro. There was a very big difference from being college shape to after I was done, like just kind of being in shape. Like, oh, I went for a 3-mile run today.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. And then after the 3-mile run, that's like the warm up.
Yeah.
Then we have grappling training. Then we have striking training. Then we have hit workouts that are more than just 15 minutes. It's like there's a massive full day of intensity that can be 4 to 6 days a week. You know what I'm saying? So that had to been so strenuous. Because how did you? Because you had to go to the gym to train, but how many?
The gyms were all closed. There was
They
nothing
were all
allowed.
closed.
Yeah. So like when I
Wow.
say exercise, like you're allowed to go running outside. You weren't allowed to go inside of a business. All the businesses were shut down.
Bro, you ran marathon.
So like, luckily, honestly, there was a parking garage under my condo,
Yeah.
and I would go down there and like nobody was using their cars, so there's nobody in the fucking parking garage. And I would
Yeah.
just work out in the parking garage alone. You know what the workout Murph?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
a famous CrossFit workout, right?
Yeah,
where
the
it's like
body studio does like 100 pull-ups.
it's a mile, 100 pull-ups, 400 push-ups, or like 200 push-ups, 400 squats, or something like that, and then
Yeah.
another mile.
Yeah.
I did that every day for like 6 months.
God.
I didn't have the weighted vest, but everything else I was doing it every single day just to like stay fit, and I was bored as fuck, honestly, just
Yeah.
like trapped inside. So I was doing that every day. So honestly, I got more fit during COVID than I
Yeah.
was when I was fighting, just because I had nothing else to do other than train.
I was the absolute opposite. I got fat as shit. I'll be honest.
I mean, a lot of it was fear though. I was just
Yeah.
like, I need to be ready because like if this shit ends, they're gonna ask me to fight immediately,
Yeah.
or there's gonna be nothing to do. Like there's gonna be no more events at all
Yeah.
because the company's gonna close down. So like,
how long was it?
I was
dude?
stressed, bro.
Were-
I don't remember the actual time. It was at least 6 months, and like originally, I remember them saying it was gonna be like a month lockdown and like a circuit breaker is what they called it
Yeah.
to try and make sure that like nobody got infected, blah blah blah, and they're gonna reopen. But then it was like another month, another month, another month. And then it was like, all right, now we're gonna go into phases,
Yeah.
which is like you can open a business, but there's only like 2 people allowed, and you have to be 10 feet apart, and then like this, like it was crazy. And I really thought like I didn't know if the gym that I was working for was gonna stay open. I thought it was all over, honestly, and I was like terrified to just like, is my career gonna keep going? What is gonna happen? And then like I'm skipping over a lot of drama that's happening
Yeah.
in the background of this, but basically like during my time there from when I first started working at the gym to this point now, we had went through 2 other head coaches. And like
Yeah.
there was issues between the team, the head coaches, and the tryout was a worldwide tryout, right? So the people got picked to be on the team, nobody's from the same country. None of us speak the same language. And like
Really?
my teammates are like from Finland, from Korea, from Brazil, and like the only other person that spoke clear English than me was like the Finnish kid who ended up being one of my best friends, Alexi, on the team. But because of that, and I'm an outspoken person, I always take like leadership roles wherever I'm at. So I kind of like became the speaker of the team. So like when I see like people down and I try and see what's going on and like in whatever broken English and like sign
Yeah.
language I can to see what's going on with them to try and help them out. I started to be the spokesperson for the team, which didn't really want that role, but like I just kind of fell into it. So when there was shit going on with like the coaches, the original coach like overtraining the fuck out of us and nobody could keep up with it and we are all like dying basically. Like people were losing crazy amounts of weight and shit because we were training so fucking hard. He was
Yeah.
just like drill sergeanting us. I was the one that would go to like management and be like, hey guys, like I don't know if we need to have a meeting with the head coach. I don't know what we need to do, but like this team is not going to be able to keep doing this. And I became the speaker of the team. Well, that kind of puts a target on your back, right?
Yeah, it
because
does.
now it's like you're the guy that's complaining, right? I didn't want to be the guy complaining, but somebody has to make sure that shit's getting changed or else the
Yeah.
whole team's going to fall apart.
You have to be realistic with what is realistic as far as training regimens.
Yeah, so I kind of knew I was putting myself like a target on my back, putting myself in a bad position, speaking out for the team, but like they had went through a couple head coaches. It didn't work out. We had got the new head coach right before the COVID thing happened. He actually cornered me for that last fight. And I thought like we had a great connection. I thought everything was all good. We really got along. I was actually one of the people that when he came for his coaching tryout, I vouched for him. I'm like, actually, I really like this guy. He seems like he was a fighter for the UFC as well.
Yeah.
He understands that side of things. He seems like he's thinking through things. So I was like, I actually vouched for him. I don't know what happened during us being all locked away and shit, but
yeah.
he got it in his head. I wanted to turn the team against him. I don't know if he had heard that like I spoke up against the other coaches or what. I don't know if there's people complaining, but he got in his head. I was trying to turn the team against him. Long story short, gym starts opening up again. We're thinking events are about to start happening again, so the whole team starts training again, getting prepared for fights. And I get an injury at some point. So the team is doing a training and I'm like off on the side doing like airdyne bike workouts to try and stay fit while I can't actually do the real trainings.
Yeah.
And he's on a Zoom call because he's not in the country at the time. He ended up going back home and not being able to get back into Singapore because of the whole COVID restrictions. And one of the coaches is on a Zoom call showing everybody training and shit like that. Well, he doesn't see me in the photo or in the Zoom call on the mats. So he's like, "Where's Troy? He's not training. He's not doing what he's supposed to do." And the other instructor is like, no, he's training. And he's like, don't fucking lie to me. I know he's not training. He does whatever he wants. You know, he thinks he runs this team and all this shit.
Yeah.
And the dude's like, no, he's training right now. Like, I was the most, like, I'm not going to say the most dedicated person on the team. That sounds fucking egotistical. But, like, I train more than anybody, right? I would do our, like, mandatory pro trainings and I would come train with regular people at the end of the day just because, like, I fucking love the sport and I just did not want to lose. So, like, when you call out my work ethic, like I take that shit personally. So like when the other coach came and told me like, hey man, he kind of just had like a little meltdown thinking that you're skipping practices and you're doing whatever you want. He's like, I told him that you were still working out around your injury, but he doesn't really believe it. I'm like, now I'm taking this personally. He's like, but he started screaming at me. So like, this is the other coach telling me this. Like he started screaming at me. So now we have to have a meeting with management about like whatever just happened.
Yeah.
So he goes and has a meeting. They square things up, and then management comes to me and like, hey, we need to have a meeting with you and him because I don't know what's going on, but like you're causing issues with the team. And I'm like, how the fuck am I'm just training. Like I don't know how any of this started. I don't know what he got in his head to think that I'm skipping practices or like whatever. I'm like, I don't know how I'm causing issues, but I'm already angry because I've heard that now he's calling out saying I'm lazy and shit. So
right.
I go into this meeting and like this is where I'll take my responsibility for how this went is I went into the meeting like defensive. I was not willing to mediate. I was going for war. Like you call me out, say I'm like being lazy. I'm trying to turn this team against you. Like you're trying to bring it to management. Like I'm the problem here. I'm fucking angry. So like we have a team meeting in the manager's office with management watching. Like he starts off by like he's basically just painting this image that like I'm the cancer of the team. Like, I'm the one that always complaining. I'm not happy with anything. I want to do my own thing. I don't trust the training process. And I don't know the exact things I said. I probably went too far. I probably shouldn't have raised my voice at the coach of the team. He's in a leadership position. I know how shit works. I shouldn't have done that. But I probably, like, I was angry, right?
Yeah,
like, I was angry. I wanted to defend myself.
You're not dealing with bullshit.
And I was just like, you know what? Fuck this guy. Like, I helped vouch for you to get you here, and all of a sudden, you're trying to get me kicked off the fucking team. And I'm like, yo, fuck this guy. So, like, I was very combative, and less like, the meeting didn't go well. We'll just put it that way.
It didn't go the way we wanted it.
Yeah, it didn't go well.
But we made progress.
I will say at the end of it, like we kind of went at each other a little bit, but at the end of it, as men, I was like, look, I'll shut my fucking mouth. You run the team. You're the coach. You run the team however you want. All I want to do is train and fight. So at the end of the day, I won't put my 2 cents in. I won't do shit. Yeah. I'll shut my ass up. I'll show up. I'll train. I'll fight. Yeah. That's all I want. And he agreed to it. We're both like, all right, I think we're good. Like, we couldn't shake hands, obviously, because we're on Zoom, but we both, like, we broed it out.
Mutual
like,
respect.
All right, I'll do my job. You do your job. We'll stay in our own lanes. We're good.
There you go.
I thought it ended at that. So I go home. I'm like, I'm still hot about the whole situation. I'm like, yo, did this really all happen? Because, like, I went from being super happy with this whole situation to, like, all of a sudden I'm thinking maybe I'm getting kicked off the team and losing my job. And I'm like, how did all this happen? So I'm just hanging out at the house. And I end up falling asleep. And I get a call at, like, 9:30 p.m. And it's the gym manager. And I'm like,
what's up?
This is fucking weird. Like, he's never just randomly called me unless he needs me to cover a class or something like that.
Yeah.
I answer the phone. And his tone, bro, my heart sank. And he's like, yo, it's me. I got some bad news, dude. I'm like, what? And he's like, and this is like one thing where I don't like the shadiness of how management goes. He goes, I don't know how it got to him, but Chaudhry, who's the owner of the company, heard that you guys were going at each other, and he just thinks like you're kind of ungrateful for the position you got. You've already had a few coaches, and it seems like you're the problem here. And like we spoke to him about how the meeting went, and you were being a bit disrespectful, and you kind of don't know your place. So we think it's best to just go ahead and terminate you and send you back to the United States. And I'm like,
bro,
yo, how the fuck did we go from us being like, I'll stay in my lane, you stay in your lane, we shake hands, everything's all good. Like 6 hours later, I'm wake up from a nap and I'm fired. And I'm like, how the fuck did this jump happen? Like, I thought, even though I wasn't happy about how the situation went, I thought it was all good. And now I just find out I'm fired. And I'm like, now that means no more salary. I don't know if I'm still in one championship anymore. I don't know if I still have a job at all. Like, COVID shit still happened. I don't know how I'm going to get back to the United States. I have a lease over here. All this shit is going through my head. And like, I mean, honestly, I tried to fight it. So like what happens at that point is like, I tried to do whatever I could. I was like trying to get in contact with the CEO who's busy as fuck. Like he doesn't have time for me, bro. He's running 2 different companies. He's got world travel and shit. I get his end of it. You know, he's trying to keep these companies afloat while COVID's going on. He doesn't have time to deal with bullshit, right? Yeah. So he hears a phone call. He hears like, yo, this athlete's causing issues. Like, this is the 3rd coach we've had. Like, what the fuck do you want us to do? I get his side of it. Like, yo, I don't have time for this. Fucking send him. Like, so like, on that side, I'm not really like bitter towards him because I get it. You don't have time to deal with me. Who the fuck am I? Like, you got companies to run. So I get that side of it, but I just want to get in his ear. And like, I just want a chance to say my piece, to like, just give me a fucking chance to be like, yo, I get that maybe I fucked up in how I approached that meeting and shit, but like, I'm really not a bad guy here. Like, I'm trying to stick up for the team and do what's right. And I couldn't really get that phone call. The team actually, like, I love these people to death. Like I said, man, nobody really speaks English. Everybody communicates just through martial arts.
Yeah.
Basically. And they all start sending messages and emails to the owner of the company, like, I don't want to be here if Troy's not here. And like, bro, to this day, like, I almost want to cry right now because like these people had my back, dude.
Damn.
They had my fucking back.
And you can't even really communicate with these people.
Yeah.
That's kind of killer. That really says the presence that you have without words.
Bro, they had my back. And like, even some of the trainers that worked at the gym that weren't a part of the team, they were like, they vouching for me, like, yo, like, Troy is not the problem here. Like, he's a good dude. And man, yeah, even now it makes me emotional because like these people really fucking had my back. And like, they actually spoke up enough to where it did get to the CEO. And he's like, hey, I'm going to have a Zoom meeting with you. This is causing more issues because now, like, the whole gym's kind of in flux.
Yeah.
To where, like, there's trainers and fighters that don't want to train there anymore. Like, a whole bunch of drama comes from this one little situation of me being not on camera during a training session, right? Like, this is just the fucking butterfly effect. And, like, all this shit's going down. But basically, you know, he gives me the time to get on a call with me. He's like, look, man, I respect that you're trying to fight for your job. I get all this shit's going. It's not going to fucking happen. He's like, you're done. Like, I don't have time to deal with this situation. Maybe if this whole COVID thing, or if it was a different situation, maybe it would go a different way. I don't have time for this shit. Stop fighting it. You're done. Okay? Yeah. You're just causing more problems at the gym right now. So just let it go. Like, and at this point, I don't want my teammates and shit to lose their job. I don't want them to get in trouble because all of us come from nothing, bro. Like, fighters don't fight because we're rich and well off, you right? Like, people are trying to change their fucking lives. So, like, I don't want them to lose their position. So I tell everybody, like, chill, leave it alone. Guys, like, I love you all for this, but I'm out. Yeah. You know, like, good. It's been real. So I try to figure all that out. So I lost the salary. I lost all that. Got sent back to the U.S. Ended up having to pay crazy amounts of money to, like, break my lease in Singapore, to leave, like, 6 months early. I have to pay all these different things. Damn, and, like, bro. That's a whole nother fuck fest, bro. Like, landlord fucked me over. Once I came back to the States, they say I broke the washer. The washer was working fine when I left, but, like, what I'm gonna do, like, go to court in Singapore from the United States. So
everybody's looking for cash.
Bro, I ended up paying like an extra like $8,000 and all this shit. Like, Jesus, just it bled a lot of money, but yeah. So then I came back to the States, and I was just basically like, what now? Like, I don't have a team here. I haven't been here in like 3 years. Like, I don't have trainers. Like, I just built a whole team and rapport over there. Like, I was super comfortable. I was undefeated. Like, now everything changed. So I come back, like, long story short, searching for a team. I end up, after a bunch of shit happens, end up in South Florida, which is crazy to me because I never thought I would have lived in South Florida. Like, growing up in Central Florida, I always thought South Florida was like a hellhole. But, and then, like, that's where, like, the career kind of just goes from straight up to straight down, bro. Just, like, thing after thing. So I was 7-0 when I got sent back to the States. Never lost a fight, had 2 finishes, like, top of my career, everything's going great. To this day, haven't won a fight since.
Damn. Bro. What year was that you got sent back here?
I don't even know. The year after COVID, so it had to be like 2021,
2022,
somewhere around there.
Okay. What team are you with right now?
So, actually, right now, I am at a point where I started my own fight team because I was tired of seeing, like, people be abused and treated the wrong way, and, like, fighters not be cared about, and, like, just, like, shit that I didn't agree with. So I was like, someone's got to change this shit. Why not fucking me? So I started coaching, right?
Nice.
But, like, aside from that, you know, just, like, a bunch of drama with me and one championship. Just, like, you know, number one, fighting during COVID, because the COVID protocols were still happening when I moved back here to Singapore. So, like, now you're not allowed to be in the country more than, like, 6 or 7 days. So, like, I'm flying over on my fight week, trying to adjust to a 12-hour time difference, and you're quarantined in a hotel room. So you're only allowed to leave your hotel room for 2 hours a day. And these are scheduled training sessions with your coaches there with you. Yeah. So, like, I have to, like, go on an app and be like, I need to train from 9 to 10. They'd bring you to another hotel room inside the hotel. You're allowed to go train with your one coach there, not a team, nothing. And there's a little room. You have no access to anything.
Damn.
And like those are my training sessions for the week. And then the other 23 hours of the day, you're stuck in a fucking hotel room. And like that's how I'm going into the week of my fight. It's so hard to prepare like that. Like,
yeah.
And not to make excuses, you know, there was a bunch of shit I did wrong, and like picking the teams I was training with, all kinds of shit went wrong. But like just not being patient. I'm losing fights basically. Like I went 0-3 in that time during COVID. The first fight I lost to like a really close decision against like number 4 guy in the world who I took the fight on against like 3 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I was just eager to fight again after COVID. Then the second time, I was supposed to fight a black belt grappler. And I get there, I land, and I don't know if you know who John Lineker is,
I know
but
the name.
he used to fight in the UFC. He had the most knockouts in flyweight division history.
Yeah. Okay.
He left the UFC, signed with one championship. He was the number 1 ranked contender in my weight class, and he was supposed to be the main event. And also, sorry, John, but this motherfucker's on all the steroids in the fucking book. They weren't testing in one at the time. So, yeah, he's on all the steroids in the book. And so, yeah, I go there to fight a Japanese black belt grappler who I was preparing for the entire fight camp. I get off the plane. They're like, hey, we kind of need you to fight John Lineker in the main event. Would you be open to that? Because his opponent can't get in because he tested positive for COVID. And, like, I don't even have my coach with me.
Yeah.
My coaches wouldn't come with me because they didn't want to be stuck in Singapore during the COVID shit like that. So I had my boy with me.
Yeah.
Like, this is already a fuck fest. And I'm like,
Jesus.
now I'm stepping up to fight the number 1 guy in the world on, like, a week's notice without preparation, not even preparing for a striker.
You're like, fuck it, dude. Let's do it.
Well, kind of. Like, in my head, I'm like, full send, but I'm like, business-wise, this is probably not smart. Like, risk-wise, I'm probably not prepared for this. So, like, I'm super scared about it. My boy's like, yo, this is a big opportunity. You knock out the number 1 dude in the world. Like, you're fighting for a belt next. Like, we're skipping the fucking line. And now I'm starting to think that way. I'm like, yo, I could change my whole life right now.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but I'm not going to do this for the same amount of money I'm making now. So, like, but I'm a kid. I don't have a manager. I don't have any grasp of, like, what normal people or, like, what people make when they fight. I just have what I got offered when I first got signed, which I was super happy with. You know, I was making 10 and 10 at the time, which is 10,000, 10,000. So I thought that was a lot of money. I'm like, I don't even know what I should ask for this fight. And the guys and the matchmaker's texting me. He's like, yo, what do we have to do to make this fight happen? I have no fucking idea. And I'm like, asking my boy, and he's like, I don't know, maybe ask for 50. I'm like, bro, that's a lot of money. They're gonna say fuck you, and they're gonna like get somebody else. Now in hindsight, 50 and 50 should have been the minimum I asked for that fight.
That's the first number that came to my head.
I think the number I threw out was like $30,000 to fight, and then a $20,000 win bonus or something like that. I thought that was so much fucking money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was super happy with that. And like the rebuttal was crazy. I remember it was like 15 and 15. And I was like, what? My heart kind of sang. I'm like, to fight the number 1 guy in the fucking division on short notice.
And it's a main event.
And a main event through all this. And I'm like, 15. I'm like, yo, am I crazy right now? Am I worth more money in this? Like, yo, what is going on? And like,
nah, they're fucking tripping.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. Like, I just wanted to fight. And like, basically he told me, like, if you don't take the fight, we're going to offer it to your opponent. And then you don't fight. And like in my head, this is after like all this shit in COVID. I don't even know if the event's going to keep going on or not. I'm like, yo, I want to fucking fight. And I don't want to lose this shit. So now I'm starting to feel the pressure. Long story short, a bunch of like shady shit goes on in the back. I changed my mind like 3 times, except the fight at 16 and 16, which was criminally low money.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yo, I'm not going to sign that contract. That's way too low. I went 25 and 25. It goes back and forth, back and forth. I feel like I got dealt an unfair hand, but also I signed the contract, so I'm a fucking idiot for that. That's my fault. And I decided to fight John Lineker. Doesn't go my way. Unprepared, get knocked out in the first round. I felt like I was doing well, but I fought very emotionally, like, because I felt like not valued by the company. I felt like there was a bunch of shit going against me. I just felt a lot of pressure. I was going through shit with I was married at the time, and like we were kind of separating, and like all this shit was coming out at once. Fought stupid, bro. Stupid. Like went out there and was like, I'm gonna prove a point and knock out John Lineker. I'm a fucking wrestler, bro.
Yeah.
Like I should have went out there and tried to take him down and like grapple fuck him. And I'm just slinging. And yeah, I got knocked the fuck out. And yeah, that was like kind of like the beginning of the downfall of my athletic career as far as competing.
Yeah. When was the last time that you had a fight?
So was the year right now is 2024.
Yeah, we
so
just hit
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Nice.
February 2022, I had a fight. It was my fight after that. Obviously took some time out. I got knocked out, so I wanted to heal my brain, not just jump back into it. And then I ended up getting scheduled to fight the Japanese black belt that I was supposed to fight.
Yeah.
Got scheduled for that. Again, like the fighter's gonna have excuse for every loss. Our egos aren't gonna let us think like there's another dude that's just fucking better than me.
Yeah.
So like even to this day, as I say that, I can tell you I'm like mentally ill because I always give myself excuse like I'm better than all those guys that beat me. There's no way. Like if you give me a fight with them right now, I'll beat the fuck out of all of them.
Yeah.
So I know I'm retarded. Like I know it in my head that makes no sense to normal people.
No, that's called confidence,
Yeah,
baby. You gotta exude that shit.
I have an excuse for everything. So like every loss, there's a reason. But I ended up the fight week. I had a really bad staph infection in my leg, and I didn't want the fight to get postponed or canceled. So like we kind of just played it off like it was like a scab on my foot. Like I had fucking like mat burn on my foot. And yeah, my cardio failed me horrifically, and that was the first fight where I feel like I really just couldn't perform. Like as soon as he grabbed me in the cage, I was like, I'm exhausted. And like I'm known for having crazy cardio, and like he pushed me against the cage in the first round. I was like, I'm exhausted. Kid submitted me. And I think at that point the company kind of lost value in me. You know, like you're only good if you're winning, and people only care to watch you if you're winning. So that was 3 in a row losses for me, and I think it kind of like company kind of lost value in me. It just like add insult to injury. When I got home from the fight, I'm already miserable. Like I lost 3 in a row. I think my whole fucking life is over, and staph infection gets worse. I being a stupid fighter and wrestler, I've had staph infections my whole life. Don't respect it. I just go to fucking a clinic, like a walk-in clinic, get some meds. My leg keeps blowing up. I have 104-degree fever. End up in the hospital for a week.
So it turned out to be the real one.
Ended up being the real thing. My leg blew up. I was in the hospital for a week on IV meds and shit like that. Like wasn't sure if I was gonna die or have like an infection in my leg. So
Jesus.
Like, yeah, it just got worse. And then like for 2 years, bro, just like texting the matchmaker, yo, I need to fight. I want to fight. I'm ready. Let me know when the next one is. And it was always like yeah, we'll keep you in mind. Like, oh yeah, I know like you're looking for a fight, but we're kind of busy right now. And like sometimes just not a response at all. And I'm like, bro, this is like I'm under contract. I can't fight anywhere else. This is the only way I make money.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, and it was that for 2 years. And actually, it's funny that we're doing this podcast now. It's just like literally, I guess a week or 2 ago is when my contract finally expired. So for 2 years, I've basically like I don't want to say it like held hostage, but like.
But it cuts your legs out from underneath you. Like
basically,
you can't do anything.
I was never offered a fight for 2 years while asking for a fight. Yeah. I can't compete anywhere else. So like my hands are fucking tied. I can't make money. So my contract just actually ended on February 7th, which again, more drama. Basically got to the point where I'm like, I need to fucking make money. I'm going to fight somewhere else. Like they can sue me. So like I plan on fighting my boys event February 17th. And just to like be sure, like I like to try and do shit the right way. So like, I text the matchmaker like, hey, I haven't been offered a fight in 2 years. Like, is my contract even fucking valid at this point? Am I even on the roster? I don't know. You don't answer me. Like, I haven't had any communication with the company. Yeah. So like, is it valid? And he texted me back. He said, yeah, your contract's valid. And that was it. Like, there wasn't a date. It was your contract's valid. I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like, I don't want my boys company to get sued for letting me fight while I have a valid contract and shit. So I tell him like, yo, it says my contract's valid, so maybe I'll get a fight with them. Like, we'll put that on hold. So then I go back to texting and like having my coach text like, yo, can we get him a fight? If your contract's valid, can we fucking fight? No answer. Put off. Like, oh, we're keeping him in mind. Oh, that matchmaker is gonna handle it. And then yeah, so then I like. Finally, we get an answer like a week ago while I'm in Vegas cornering. I have 2 fighters that were fighting in the UFC the past 2 weeks. So I'm in Vegas for 11 days.
Yeah.
And I get a text back like, hey, Troy's contract's actually now void as of February 7th. Which I'm like, yo, you guys couldn't have told me that a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like when I asked if my contract was valid, you couldn't just said, yeah, it's valid until this date.
Trying to be assholes.
So
it
I'm
seems
over
like.
here thinking like maybe there's a possibility I'm still gonna fight for this company and like getting excited again, like, yo, I might still be able to make this shit happen. Lo and behold, now like my contract at that company is over.
Yeah.
So now it's like I have to kind of make a decision at 30, about to be 31. Do I restart at another company at base level pay, try and work my way through the ranks and like get to that world championship level?
Yeah.
Or do I just say like fuck it, maybe competing is not where it's gonna be at anymore, and do I coach?
And to be honest, though, I mean, from what I've seen, like the prime for fighters can usually be that 30 to 33 range.
I've seen it.
And just because, like we've talked about it a little bit, but the experience, the knowledge set, wisdom goes in instead of being too aggressive. Sometimes you have the perfect level of aggression.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And some people, they're like late bloomers. Maybe they didn't have a long like athletic background as a childhood, so they haven't had those miles.
Correct.
For me, I played football, I wrestled, I did it all. Like I've had a lot of miles.
I fucked my entire body up.
Yeah, my shoulders are fucked. My neck
Point
is
blank.
definitely fucked. So like now I'm starting to think like, and maybe it's just in my head questioning myself because I haven't competed in so long. Like, do I still got it? Is basically the question in my head. Like, can I still do it at that level?
So what you're saying is you're still kind of up in the air whether you're gonna go back.
Yeah, like all the guys on my team that I coach are like, bro, you still got it. Like, they're active fighters, and like when we train and like we're going with each other, they're like, bro, like you got it.
Now let me ask you this. So, and I'll start gearing towards the wind up here soon.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm super long winded.
No, you're good, bro. I love the story. The story is honestly incredible because it's the first story that I've ever heard that, you know, like I said, I've done a couple fighters, but obviously never had one in the home. But going off to a completely other country to sign up with an organization that you're just like, bro, fuck it, you just go, and that's the part that it just baffles me a lot. Like I could never do that in my head for some odd reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have kids and I've had them for so long, right? Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. It's okay. Just taking seductive photos. I know. That's my wife, by the way. This is Ash.
What's up, Ash?
So, but it's just, I mean, even without that, it's like just being a 21-year-old kid. You go to a place where you know you're not going to be able to talk to anybody. You're not going to be able to do anything. I don't have a ton of cash in the bank, and it's like you're just risking everything, basing it on like, dude, this is something that I love to do. So, like I said, the story, I love it, dude. I absolutely love it. Now, have you found yourself, since you've now been on the coaching end and you've been in the UFC and you've helped fighters get to higher levels, like now you've seen the joy of being a coach and an athlete. Like, what have you enjoyed the most between the two? Like, are you still kind of like, I had more joy when my hand was raised at the end of a fight, or I was the guy that coached that guy to get his hand raised?
So it's double-sided, right?
Yeah.
Like, I will say, for me, I feel like my passion is on the coaching end. Like, I really do love, and I feel the same fire for seeing my guys be successful as when I fought. But there's also like, yo, we fight for a reason, right? We have an ego. We have a point to prove. Like, there's no replacing when you get your hand raised, you're the fucking guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a high that you'll chase for the rest of your life as a fighter. And that's why most fighters can never fucking step away from the sport, even when they know they're washed up. Like,
yeah,
it's so hard to replace that. You're always chasing that. But I do love the coaching side. The issue is, I know as a fighter, I can put money away and I can actually make enough money to like sustain a nice lifestyle.
Yeah.
The coaching end in MMA is atrocious. Like, some people are lucky, they get the right sponsorships, they get the right teams and deals, but most coaches that are like high-level MMA coaches, they coach regular classes all day long and they teach the fighters out of love. But it's not like professional football where it's like, hey, you're going to get $1 million salary, coach these fucking savages.
Yeah.
It's coach these dudes for free for 10 years until you get them to the highest level and then get paid maybe $1,500 when they win.
Yeah, so you're seeing like the gyms that coach, like some of the bigger names that you would see in the UFC, like the gym that Khabib does, right? Like that gym would be doing prominently well, and there may be 2 or 3 others.
Yeah.
But then you have all these other fighters, which I think people kind of overlook because like Khabib, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, like all these guys those are, what would you want to say, the name brands of the UFC. It's John Jones, you know, but there's also 300 other fighters on contract. Like, where do they go? So yeah, I mean, that makes sense, man. You point out, I never even thought about it that way, because in my mind, it is like football. Like those guys that have gyms and they have all these athletes here, like they got to be making bank. But yeah, now that you mention it, you have all those prelim fights and all these things, the undercard, all that stuff that leads up to the main event, right? There's like 20 fights in a single night. And 16 of them are, sometimes when you come across, if you're really not a diehard fan, you're like, oh, who is that guy? You know, like, yeah, damn, I never
and
even
you
thought
got
about
to get
it.
them to that portion. Like that portion of your career, it might take you 8 years to get there.
Yes.
So I'm coaching this guy for 8 years making $0.
That's insane.
So
bro.
it's like, that's the problem with me right now is like, would I love to go full time into the coaching side of things? I would love to be able to.
Yeah.
But I still, like, money rules the
You'd
world,
have
bro.
to have something
Money
else,
rules the world.
yeah,
I
so
have
like-
to pay the bills, you know?
I have a really good set of friends of mine, Rob and LeMay. They actually run a daycare, but it's a Taekwondo daycare,
Okay.
right? So during the summertime, they take kids from like 8 to 4 or something like that. Then they run the after school program during school, right? He has separate classes for kickboxing, and then he does jujitsu and some other stuff. And he is a black belt in Taekwondo, and he's also, I'm pretty confident, I think what is it, black belt for kickboxing? Same ideal? Or is it,
Some schools will do it. There's not really a belt in kickboxing.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's been doing kickboxing for 30 years. So he's very well versed, and he's never had the ambition to compete. He loved being around it, and he felt like it made him better as a person. But he utilizes this daycare and this after school program to help some of the fighters that he does
to
work
fund
with.
it.
And that's it. Because even for kickboxing classes, like if you have a guy that comes up, I know that I met 2 of them. They said, hey, no, Rob just lets me come in for the kickboxing class, and we'll do some one-on-one stuff after. Like other people that want to do it because they're like, oh, I just want to get in shape, right? Like they pay like $50 a month, something like that. But the fighter, he's like, no, Rob just lets me come to the,
Because they got no fucking money, bro.
yeah. And it's like, that's what's crazy to me. It's so weird, man. Because you hear those backstories and you realize, like, bro, you're taking a gigantic risk when you're like, bro, I want to be a fighter, and you're 18 years old, and like you don't necessarily, if you want to be as good as you want to be, you have to train for 8 hours a day. Like we said, being a professional athlete, you can't go get a full-time job and then do this and only sleep for 3 hours a night. Like it doesn't work. So yeah, dude, that's insane. So I got two segments for you, bro, before we wrap up here. But first one is, we have it right here. Bad decisions make better stories, man. Give us something, an individual thing that you would say was probably a bad decision, but actually turned out to either be a funny story or the best thing that didn't happen, or the best thing that did happen.
I mean, honestly, I think we went over it earlier, and like, it really did change the whole course of my life, because I could just be a regular firefighter right now. So
Yeah.
I think the bad decision
Just dipping.
was scheduling that fight the weekend before I was supposed to start
Yeah.
fucking fire school.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
was a terrible decision, and it got my jaw broken.
Yeah.
But it changed the whole course of my life, and like I met a bunch of amazing people, and I had like as much bad shit I can say what came out of that whole experience with one championship and moving to Singapore and stuff. Bro, none of that would ever happen. I wouldn't have met all these amazing people, made all these connections around the world, and like experienced living in a different culture. So like that bad decision, honestly, like I'm so happy for it.
Yeah, I love that. That's the idea of the entire story. Because like when I was coming up in high school and stuff, like I was such a dumbass, bro. I probably got arrested like 7 times, and it's all stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like one time I graffitied a giant 60-foot dick on the side of my high school.
Worth it, bro.
Yeah, it was worth it, bro. So, but throughout all that stuff, like and obviously, you know, like my life's turned out great. I have my kids and all that stuff, and my wife, and like definitely wouldn't change anything. But if I hadn't done that shit, honestly, when I was coming up, I was actually a pretty stout athlete. At a certain point, like as a football player, I was like 6'1", 240. I clocked like a 4'8", 4'9", 40. I could squat 500-600 pounds. I bench press 300. I was like 16 years old. And I was that guy. But I got arrested for doing that graffiti thing. And I ended up, my parents were like, "You're never allowed outside again," right? So I sat on my ass for 8 months, and like you said it before, when you sit, you don't use it, bro.
You lose it.
You do lose it, bro. Like it does go. And it took me. I never got back down to 240. I think the closest I got to it was like 265 pounds, and that was like 6 years later when I was in college. But after that, it just changed the entire trajectory of my life. I told this real quick on this. I told this story before on the pod, but the night that I got arrested for that, my parents picked me up from the police station. I got home and I got a phone call from a college recruit. It's fucking Chan Gailey at Georgia Tech, bro. I swear to God, dude. It was I was a sophomore.
Yeah.
And he was like, "How's spring ball going?" And I was like, "Well, it's not going that great, brother." And he was like, "Oh, so I got in a little bit of trouble, so I'm not playing spring ball." He's like, "Oh, that sucks. All right, well, have a good night."
Yo,
The end.
I was about to offer you a scholarship. Fuck.
I know, dude. It was sick. But last segment, man. Last segment is Spice of the Week. So Spice of the Week is sponsored by Joe's Backyard Smokehouse. Thank you so much, Joe. Give us something that's happened good in the last week of your life. Maybe it's something very, very little that kind of like hits you a few days later. Man, that was pretty dope. Or something gigantic that just made the week great. The idea of the segment is we want everybody to kind of focus on a little bit more positive life, you know, because everybody, especially as you guys know now, fighters, they have rough weeks, just like guys that go and work 9 to 5s, all that bullshit, right? But what we can always take away from is there's always something that we can look at, say, you know what, the week wasn't really that fucking bad. You know, this happened or whatever. So you got something or you want me to go first?
I mean, you're welcome to go first. I do have something in mind, but
Hit me with it, bro.
lead the show. Okay.
Hit me with it.
I mean, honestly, it's actually this morning for me. I live down south, and I drove up because my original jiu-jitsu school, where I first started fighting as an amateur and stuff like that, is up here in Lakeland. And I did a seminar at one of the newer schools, so he has multiple now. Back when I started, it was like a little school, Carlson Gracie.
Yes. Yep.
So the owner of it, Hafa Santos, loved him to death. Like, honestly, when I broke my jaw, I had no money, and he let me train for free for a long time. Like,
Nice.
Bro, he really hooked it up. I love that guy to death. So I just wanted to come up and do something. So I did a free seminar for them this morning at one of their newer locations. And man, like 30 plus people showed up. It was cool to see a bunch of old faces and like reconnect with people. And it was just like, you know, like all the shit that's happened in the last few months, I've been really just in my head about like, yo, how many bad decisions, like, have I really fucked my life up? Like all the stupid shit I've been doing.
Yeah.
And then you just go in there and you see that. And like to some of these people, I'm still the fucking man.
Yeah.
And like, seeing them and just doing that seminar and being able to like give back a little bit and just like reconnect with those people, man, it like made me feel so fucking good. Like, you know, we might have stumbled along the path a little bit, but the path is still there, and like these people still care regardless.
You still set a path that people look up to.
Yeah.
That's
like,
dope, bro.
That shit felt so good to just be there and like give back a little bit and just see everybody's face, man. So
I'm not gonna lie, that's an amazing spice, bro. I should have went first because I'm gonna sound like shit now. Mine, I was gonna give a shout out to fucking Fruit Loops. No, man, that's dope, bro. That's fantastic. God, that's so cool. So, mine actually was gonna go to Lazy Days. That's it. Like I said, mine was nowhere near as good as yours. So, tomorrow, I've been looking forward to it all week, and it's something that's like I've had some horse shit happen at work, some bullshit going back and forth. You know what I mean? But every single time some bullshit happened, I kind of looked over. I said, you know, it's Sunday. I don't have shit to do. And usually, like, we run a couple different businesses. I also work a full-time job. Kids, I'm doing, like, usually on Saturdays, I'm taking my son over to play his football games. And we're constant. There's never a time when we're not moving, bro. And it's just like, I've been looking forward to it the entire week. I'm like, so I'm going to wake up. I'm going to wake up early as fuck, too. Just so I can have coffee and I can extend where I don't have to do shit for even longer. So like 4 a.m. wake up call for no reason, just to sit in my living room and enjoy coffee. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it, bro.
Dude.
I don't have kids, so I have like those kind of times all the time, but I could only imagine like how good that feels to just have some silence and be
hell yeah.
fucking just chill.
Hell yeah, bro. So that was my spice. I haven't even gotten to it yet, but it's made me so fucking hyped.
You're just excited for it.
Yes, dude. I'm like, yes. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was rather short notice, and I got to give another shout out to JP. JP Hovey, you are the man. Connecting our podcast to an amazing dude, an awesome fucking story, and I can't say I would never want to be anywhere else on a Saturday and sitting here listening to your journey, bro. It was dope. So
appreciate it.
In the future, I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, anytime.
Real
quick for tonight, since it is fight night.
Yes.
Who do you got in the main event?
So I'm gonna have to go Volk, bro. I am gonna have to go Volk. Like, I understand as far as his last fight, did take it on very short notice.
Yep.
And you're talking about what would be transition from Volk to him would be the pound for pound best fighter in the world, right?
Yeah.
Getting knocked out that way, but at the same token, there has been no one that has come close to him in his weight class.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to stick with Volkanovski on this one.
I'm notoriously bad at picking fights, which makes no sense because I'm a fighter. Fighting doesn't make sense though, guys. I'm just gonna let you know that.
Yes.
This one is fucking hard for me because I love Volk. Like, he's a fucking savage.
I know,
he's
dude.
Technically amazing. Just the way he carries himself and just how honest he is. He's a fucking dope person.
Dude, I love his purity even after those losses. Right?
He's just real about it.
He was just like, hey, bro, fuck. He got me. Like, that made me a fan for life. It was like the complete opposite of the way Conor McGregor went.
Absolutely.
I was like, dude, fuck the way he responded to people. He's a piece of shit. But him, I love the humbleness. And you have that guy. Well, you have Volk and a couple other guys, but not to cut you off.
No, absolutely. But, bro, it's your fucking podcast. Who the fucking am?
So
do what you want.
Who do you got?
My mind says Volk just because he's technically perfect, honestly, and he can fight any style. Like, he's very, very good. When I watch Ilya, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, when I watch Ilya, I see so many things that, like, I feel like it's like a simple answer to as a fighter, but nobody's able to do them to him. So who the fuck am I to like be like, oh, that's an easy thing to do? I think Volk should win.
Yeah.
If he gets slept because Ilya is just a young, great athlete, I wouldn't be surprised.
Really?
I would not be surprised.
Damn. I mean, and the funny thing is too is like we were talking about. I always forget how to say it. Makhachev, right? Was it Makhachev? Thank you. But the way in that last fight that Volk had with him, right? I'd never seen him get hit like that.
Guys, that was 4 months ago. The brain does not heal that quickly.
I know. That's dude. Okay, so I'm glad you said it because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, bro, aren't you supposed to be out like 6 to 8 months after a clear knockout?
And you know he was taking punches ahead in sparring and within a month or two.
Absolutely. So, dude, beast. Absolute unit, bro.
All the best tonight, Volk. Hope you don't take any more brain damage. I think you're going to win, but I would not be surprised.
This is going to come out, I think, 2 or 3 weeks after this. However, you guys will know the prediction. If we were right, then eat shit. Right. So, guys, thank you so much. Do me one solid before you do push that over. Look right in that camera if you can. Tell them where to find you on social media and stuff.
Oh, it's real simple. It's at Troy the Fighter Guy on Instagram. I try to keep it easy. That's basically all I got. I told you I fucking hate social media, so I don't keep up with anything else. It's at Troy the Fighter Guy. If you want to follow my fight team, it's Deepak Fight Team, and that's it.
There you go. So if you guys get a chance, make sure you guys go follow him. Obviously, he's got an awesome journey, and I'm pretty sure after watching this, there's going to be a couple people that would love to see you fight again.
I hope so.
Thank you, guys. Tune in, subscribe, all that bullshit. Hey, hell yeah, bro.
2 dimes and a token.